Okay, Aaron, how about you quickly give the trivia again for these people who have joined us who weren't here before?
Sure. So the trivia question today asks in 1851, Iowa had 100 counties. It now has 99 counties. Which one of those 100 counties does not exist today? And we already got a good hint from our guest, Sean. Sean said that it was uh, in the Kossuth County area.
Mm.
Okay, we'll see if we get anyone who gives a hint. I think this is one of those where a little bit of thumb research on Google is might be appropriate for people to get this one. Uh, but we'll give the answer in just a moment when we get started.
Okay, I see everybody popping in. It's so great to see everybody's names here. We are recording and we're live streaming to IFU's Facebook page, so you all can go and share that, share this video there after we're finished today. Aaron, I think if you want to go ahead and get us started, I am all set.
Well, very good. Well, welcome everyone. This is the Iowa Farmers Union Lunch and Learn series, and we are so grateful to be joined by two guests today, Jonathan Lawrence and Sean Dengler, and we're going to learn about advocacy journey that they are undertaking and participate in some wonderful National Farmers Union advocacy training. We're going to learn all about it. But it's great to have you here, Jonathan. It's great to have you here, Sean. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Well, we're going to have a great discussion today. Before we do jump right in, we are going to do just a couple of Farmers Union announcements, if we could. Tonight, there is a virtual screening of The Jungle hosted by the Iowa Alliance for Responsible Agriculture at 7 p.m. tonight. It's a virtual screening of The Jungle. And in addition to that, we are very pleased that screening, we will be joined with an introduction by the director, Matt Weschler. And so it's an excellent opportunity to learn about, it's an updated, modern day take on Upton Sinclair's famous 1906 expose that rocked the nation. And it unravels centuries of greed and exploitation in America's meat industry. And it calls into question the profiteering of ecosystems and reveals how indigenous knowledge may hold the key to creating an equitable food system. So we are so grateful that we will be able to see that screening today. The director's comment is, agriculture is more consolidated than ever, with just a few handful of massive conglomerates calling the shots, says the filmmaker. The downstream effects are crippling rural communities, depleting rural resources, natural resources, and destroying ecosystems. And consumers and climate change feel the damage from it. So we are really grateful that we will see this screening tonight with the Iowa Alliance for Responsible Agriculture. A $5 free will donation really helps IRA as it addresses Iowa's factory farm crisis. So make sure you catch that if you are able to. Extremely importantly, I wanted to bring your attention to an Iowa Farmers Union action alert. That action alert is in the chat. It's about Iowa schools being left out of local food funding. Of course, this relates back to the investments that have been made to connect our Iowa farmers with their local communities and their schools and their early care centers. And the the pilot project worked, that the state invested in. It supported rural economies and strengthened farm to school connections and helped kids eat real Iowa grown food. This year, many of those schools are being cut out entirely because of funding cuts. The state agriculture budget includes limited funding for local food. but it's reserved for food banks only. Schools and early care providers are not eligible. This is a big, major step backwards because federal farm to school programs are winding down. We're fighting against that action as well. But if we don't act now, Iowa schools will lose access to the very tools that help them serve better food and build stronger local partnerships. So we're asking people to contact members of the Agriculture and Natural Resources Appropriation Subcommittee. We're asking them to restore schools and early care sites as eligible participants in Iowa's local food purchasing program. Even with a small amount of dollars, eligibility matters. And if schools are left out now, they'll be left out later when the funding grows. So make sure that you take a look at the action alert today and take action and tell our legislators and tell them, as a concerned Iowan, we are concerned that the local food purchasing program needs to be fixed because it's leaving schools out and early care centers out. So act now to keep Iowa local food in our Iowa cafeterias. Okay, with that it said, we are going to give the answer to our trivia question. The trivia question was, in 1851, Iowa had 100 counties. It now has 99 counties. Which one of those counties does not exist today? The answer to the trivia question is Bancroft County does not exist today. And it was, in fact, the northern half of present-day Kossuth County in northern Iowa. So Bancroft County is the answer to our trivia question. I think it only existed for about 4 years before some reorganization took place. So with that being said, let's move on to our excellent topic for today. We are so grateful to be joined by our guests. Jonathan Lawrence is the Education Director for Iowa Farmers Union and a Value Chain Coordinator for Eat Greater Des Moines. He's based in Fairfield, and he works primarily with communities in Southeast Iowa, but he's making connections for farmers, for food security, for community building, and advocacy work. And so thank you again for being with us, Jonathan. And Sean is a writer, coach, and retired farmer who grew up on a farm between Traer and Dysart. He now lives in Urbandale. He's doing great work. You can read some of his work in the North Tama Telegraph and on Substack as well. And so with that being in mind, keeping those things in mind, we are so grateful that you participated in the National Farmers Union advocacy training, and we're going to learn about advocacy efforts and how important it is to get involved. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about yourselves, if you could. Jonathan, why don't you give us a little bit more of your background?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, thank you for having us. So I'm, born and raised in Lansing, Michigan. So I went to Michigan State University in business management and learned and had an inclination to learn more about sustainability, and decided to go to a university in Iowa called Maharishi International University. And it was there where I got exposed to regenerative agriculture um, uh, and just the overall food, local food system, and just the role that our farmers play in our day-to-day lives. So yeah, that's kind of what really brought me to this kind of work and got me interested in just becoming more involved in how we can see the change that we want.
Well, very good. Thank you so much. Sean, give us a little bit more of your background.
Yeah, thank you again for having us. Like I said, or like Aaron said, I grew up between Traer and Dysart, Iowa. You can see both elevators from where my parents' farm is. And so I went to college at UNI. Wasn't planning to be a farmer, but always helped out on the farm. Always enjoyed doing that growing up. Moved to Des Moines, followed my now wife down here. I live in Urbandale. Was doing other stuff, and then 2020 I got laid off from my job, and my dad was getting up there in age, so I thought, hey, this is the time to try to maybe make this work, see what happens. The fifth generation farmer, so I go back and started doing that. Worked with him 50-50 a couple of years, and then a couple of years after that I started going at it myself. He's still helping out, but it just looking around and just seeing how hard it was, and why, to me also, you're seeing like how farms have consolidated over time, and just figuring out the reason why all that's happening. It just is like I just wanted to figure out what was going on. And so last year when Lena Khan came to Iowa, thankfully for because of the Farmers Union, that kind of drew my interest into monopoly power within the state and really cleared up, I think, a lot of the issues that I was experiencing as a small farmer, because we farmed less than 500 acres. Is just pretty much a typical corn soybean rotation. We also grew some seed corn for Pioneer as well. But just knowing that, like, yeah, I couldn't move back and how hard it was, and just seeing like my other friends who are farmers still struggling and all that, I just decided at the end of 2024, I didn't want to get myself into deep trouble or anything like that. And I called it quits, but I wanted to still stay involved. I didn't want to just put that part of my life away, and I wanted to help and advocate for what's right and what took me out of it. And so this current session, actually, I've been clerking down at the Capitol for Representative Larry McBurney in the House, who's my representative here in Urbandale. And so just kind of learning more of that process to hopefully get more involved in the future. And yeah, want to do the advocacy training to kind of see how I could tell my story to help prevent other farmers from becoming like me.
Well, and tell us, so you both went to Washington, D.C. Just a week or two ago to participate in National Farmers Union advocacy training. Tell us about what the Farmers Union does at advocacy training.
Yeah, I'll let you go, Sean.
Okay. At the advocacy training, they bring us in. They kind of, the first day was a lot of just typical training stuff where they kind of talk to you about how you want to talk to a legislator, obviously at more the U.S. level. And for me, it's kind of interesting at being a clerk at the Iowa Capitol. It's different, but it's kind of similar. But I'm on the other side of it where people are coming to talk to Larry or other people. So that's what's kind of interesting to me, because I could be like, okay, now how does this work? Because I obviously am aware of Day on the Hills that happen at the Capitol. But going back, yes, they do kind of train how to talk to your legislator, how to make your pitch. I think the thing that always stood out to me was like, you have to be quick with what you're going to say. You're not going to have much time. So make sure you have your fine points of what you want to say, like the specific things, like the National Farmers Union. I just pulled this out that's sitting behind. They kind of give you the list of priorities they want you to talk about. And then the ones that more pertain to like what matters to us. And for our example, it was the LFPA and the LFS obviously was a big one. That was Jonathan's cause. And then there's the American Beef Labeling Act, and obviously just talking about my story about monopolization agriculture. And then he kind of did some media training as well to how to talk when you get interviewed and kind of how to tell your story in an effective way. And then, yeah, that was basically Monday. And then Tuesday essentially was a little more training, kind of prep you, get more excited to go and talk to the legislators. And then the afternoon was talking to the legislators. Jonathan, you can hit on anything I may have missed.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing that they kind of do is they really empower you to tell your story. Like nobody knows your story better than you. And essentially they're just giving you the tools and the guidance and the tips to just bring that out and to be more succinct in how you talk. Because yeah, that's really what brought me to doing the training was I'd been to a couple Day on the Hills, but it's really hard to kind of prep for what that's like until you actually do it. You know, it's
Right.
honestly the experience of it that really makes you more confident in actually telling your story and how to just connect. And you just soon realize they're just like us. You know, they're just human beings that are just doing their work, passionate about their work, and you just have to find a way to help tell your story to kind of connect to that. So yeah.
Well, great. Well, we'll encourage people to put questions in the Q&A box for both Sean and Jonathan. We'll get to as many as we can. One question people are asking, just hey, clarify again with us, Jonathan, in particular, when you talked about the LFPA and LFS, remind us what those programs are and why they're in peril and what you were asking our lawmakers.
Yeah, so those two programs came about during COVID times, and that was just just a really important way to kind of get our farmers support, get them markets that that they can rely on. And so LFPA stands for Local Food Purchasing Assistance, and
Mhm.
then LFS is Local Food for Schools. So these are both coming from USDA, and yeah, they're just programs where farmers can bring in their food to food banks, to food pantries, to food hubs, and they'll get that food to where it needs to go. And it was such a revolutionary kind of program, I feel like, because a lot of times our local food farmers just don't have the support that they need. They don't have those markets. There's always something that gets in the way of that. And this just really just felt like a win-win for everybody. It was a win for the farmers, a win for, the food sites that this food got to. So when that program got taken away, because it was renewed in 2024. It was renewed for 3 years. And when that happened, farmers are getting prepared for the upcoming season. They're buying the seed. They're making sure that they kind of budget for what they expect that they're going to get. And very quickly into the year, it got pulled away from us. And that's $11 million that was going to go to Iowa specifically, 1 billion in total for the whole country. And yeah, it was a real gut punch for people in local foods. And yeah, I just wanted to speak to my experience working with the food hub in Kelowna in Southeast Iowa, called Camp Creek Organics, and just talk to my experience working. I'm talking to these food pantries, soup kitchens, daycare centers. We're getting this as well. I'm talking to them on a weekly basis, and they're just telling me how much they appreciate getting fresh local food. That's something that's just not, the norm in these places. And so yeah, I just wanted to speak to my story and just let them know how important this program was, and hopefully that they can renew the program and then make sure that it's a consistent program for us.
Yeah, farmers had already begun planning by this time, right? That this
Yeah,
program was going to, I mean, all the financing, all the ordering of inputs, and all the prep work that goes into the growing season, all that was well underway, right? When this cut off, uh, it's extremely disruptive, the opposite of efficient. And but the real impact is, like you mentioned, the farmers and the kids, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, who really is losing out on this? I mean, it's people that really need this kind of nutrition, need this kind of
Yeah.
products available. And if we truly want to see proper nutrition for kids, if we truly want to make this country a healthy country, these are the programs that need to be consistently available to our farmers.
Yeah. Well, and to go along with building that infrastructure, building on those investments at the farm and the uh, and the food chain side of things, Sean, we have to at the same time be talking about competition issues. And it
Hmm.
sounds like you emphasized a lot of those competition issues with the lawmakers you met with.
Yeah, I mean, I want to speak basically how expensive all the inputs are, but then when you
Mm,
look back to how the inputs are expensive, it's because there's very few competitors within those markets. And so they can just keep going and raising their prices each time. I specifically think of seed. You can
right.
literally, if you look at basically there's Bayer or there's Corteva, and then I love to think of about the illusion of choice because within Corteva, yes, there's Pioneer, but then I think Brevant's their other one. It's almost like buying a car when you look like a Lexus and a Toyota are made by the same company, and there's not really competition necessarily within that. And I will say this is just a plug for my Substack. That's what I wrote about is seed, the chemical market, even the grain processors, the where are selling our grain. It's very highly consolidated where they're pushing out and squeezing as much as they can as a middleman out of like what the farmers can get. And so Yeah, I just want to talk about like we should pursue options or whatever we can to help break this up or make competitive or markets more competitive.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, did you so you got training to go
Mhm.
into those meetings with your legislators. Do you feel like you put that training to good use? Did it help you as you stepped into that advocacy role at the Capitol?
Do you want to go first,
Yeah, yeah.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I definitely feel like that. That definitely helps, especially when, they kind of prep you for how something may go. For instance, sometimes you might not get the most attention out of the person you're talking to. But you still want to kind of maintain kind of a respectful way of how you're talking to people, and make sure that they understand that they can kind of they can reflect back on this person really was an expert in their knowledge base. Like they really were somebody who could kind of speak to their experience, like really authentically. So and I also remember just making sure that you repeat
Hmm.
what you want to ask. That's something you say at the beginning and then at the end, just to really make sure that that's on their mind.
Yes. Yeah, I fully agree. They give you obviously the National Farmers Union, they kind of give you a list of things you want, specifically one thing you probably really want to hammer. But I would try to go through and relate as much as my experience. Like they had talked about the American Beef Labeling Act, just making sure American beef is actually American beef and companies can't kind of skirt the rules on that. While I never had cattle, I still have friends that are cattle farmers. And so I would bring up that example to them and that as well. In addition to some crop insurance stuff, extending it from 5 to 10 years for beginning and veteran farmers, about a
Yeah.
bill that they want to do that. In addition to essentially, I think it's the Support the Farm Ownership Improvement Act, which is basically gives farmers, beginning farmers, a pre-approval, pre-qualification process, kind of like when you buy a home through the FSA, so you can be more competitive. And what was good, be more competitive with people who might not be farmers that are just coming in to buy the land. There's a Montana farmer we met there, Bo, who's a very nice individual, and he gave his story about basically saying like, yeah, we are in Montana, we're just cow farmers, but obviously Montana, there's been a lot of outside money coming in, and kind of gave the example of, yeah, if we have that, we can be more competitive with them, and using that to tell the people. And I thought I really liked it. The part that I enjoyed about it was the staff is with you. You're not just by yourself necessarily. You're not just going rogue, and they're there to kind of guide you along in case like you kind of run out, or they can help the conversation. So you shouldn't feel scared or worried that like you're gonna mess up, because they certainly have the guardrails there to help you along.
Yeah, and Sean also kind of just mentioned that you also get to meet other people in other farmers union states. So that was awesome just to kind of hear their story, and you can kind of then use that to kind of advocate as well. So just everything that's going on there really is applicable for those conversations with legislators.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Well, we've talked about some of the challenging times facing right now. Rising input costs, consolidated markets, cuts to USDA funding and other funding that were meaningful investments for farmers. So those are all really challenging things. But you brought up a lot of things that gives people a lot of optimism and hope. What things bring you optimism when you think about encouraging people to be involved in the advocacy efforts of the farmers union and other grassroots advocacy efforts? What gives you optimism, or what do you makes you
Yeah, may I go
what makes
first?
Yeah,
yeah,
go for
please.
it.
I can speak to my experience also being a clerk at the Capitol. Is
Uh-huh.
it just telling your story? No one else is going to do that. I also think from Gabe Brown's book, Dirt to Soil, whether you agree or disagree with some parts of it, whatnot, at the end, he literally says, do something. And that is a motto I think of, is just do something. Figure out what you want to take action on and do it. And that's, who cares what people think? Just do what you believe in, and as long as you're telling that story, you will get action done. This is not related to agriculture at all, but this is a story that I met at the Iowa State Capitol, there was a woman who's advocated for midwives for like 18 years. It's just her. And she's done it this whole time and kept coming back every year. And each year she's kind of built more rapport with more people over the years. And it's just that determination to just keep doing it. It will matter. You might feel tough at times, but no one else is going to do it besides yourself. So just go on and do it, and you're going to be great.
Very good. Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything Sean just said. I mean, uh, yeah, your story is your story. And you know, we a lot of times we find things to kind of complain about, or things that we just feel like aren't going the way that we envision they should go. Then you know that's more than enough reason to kind of talk to your legislators, get to know them, you know, get to understand you know, why they're doing what they're doing, and just try to get it on their radar why it matters to you. So yeah, it's super important. I can't think of a better time right now than to get involved. You know, so much is going on, and if you feel a way about it, there's avenues, there's people to kind of congregate with and to kind of build with. So yeah.
Yeah. Can I follow up with one last thing that I know
Please
from
do.
my time at the State House is don't whatever party you like, work with both parties, because at the end of the day, you'll find people within parties, each party, that will help you and get you there. And just share your story, because obviously in the Iowa legislature, the Republicans have more power. You can go through some of them. There are people you can work with that can help with that as well. And just share your story, because you never know who actually might pick up your cause and be willing to go with you on it.
Well, very good. Well, that's a great message, guys, and we appreciate so much that you took your time to go to Washington D.C. for this advocacy training. We work very hard within the state to do advocacy training to build up our narrative, because we know that our voices are stronger when we bring our voices loudly. It benefits our farm, it benefits our community, it benefits the state of agriculture here in Iowa. So very we're very grateful for you and your time, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
thank
having
you.
us.
Yeah.
Well, we also wanted to remind people, you know, that this advocacy training and other efforts like it are what we are. It's what we do in order to raise the voices of family farmers, to advocate for sustainable agriculture and thriving rural communities, to bring a loud voice for a healthy landscape here in Iowa. Well, we can't do it all for free, folks. We need your help. So please, if you are inclined, help us do education efforts like this. Help us do advocacy efforts like this that make a real difference, both for our state lawmakers in Des Moines and our national lawmakers at when we go to Washington, D.C. We have a group of Iowans headed to Washington, D.C. in just the coming days as well to advocate. And we know we will be advocating from our farms and from our communities as well. So please consider supporting the Iowa Farmers Union. It helps us. National Farmers Union helps us, but we also are the ones who are making it possible to send people like Sean, to send people like Jonathan, to send people to National Farmers Union Women's Conference, to represent us at other educational and advocacy efforts. We all need to pitch in to make that happen, because we know that it takes an investment, and it's an investment that pays off for us, and Iowa pays off for the Farmers Union, and pays off for our communities when we work together and invest in these opportunities. So if you can give, please do so. We put a link in the chat for supporting the Iowa Farmers Union and supporting advocacy efforts like this. So thank you so much for being Farmers Union members. Thank you for your support of Farmers Union. If you can give a special gift towards our advocacy efforts, we would appreciate it very much today as well. So click on the link in the chat. So everyone, Christina, thank you so much for all your efforts to bring this together. This only works together through our wonderful Iowa Farmers Union team, Jonathan and Christina, and Tommy and Matt. and Deborah, all working together to bring the Farmers Union efforts and bring our voices together and to make a real difference. So we'll look forward to seeing people at next week's Lunch and Learn. Make sure that you pay attention in the chat. We might want to include those again for people. Tonight, there is a screening of the movie with the Iowa Alliance for Responsible Agriculture, The Jungle, and then also the very important action alert dealing with our efforts to bring connections between farmers and our local schools. So check out that action alert. We need your help today to make a difference. Iowa schools are at risk of being left out of local food funding. So everyone, thank you so much for being with us today. Again, big thank you to Sean and big thank you to Jonathan. It's great to have you guys.
Thank you
Thank
again
you,
for
Aaron.
having us.
Yep.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.